Hi, my name is Sophia Kruszewski.
Hi, my name is Brandon Dwyer.
We are students at FGCU, both majoring in management. We are studying contemporary issues in sports under the tutelage of Professor Baptiste, and today we are going to discuss the controversy of drug use in sports, specifically prescribed medications versus performance-enhancing drugs. We appreciate your attention and hope you find our presentation informative. So what are performance-enhancing drugs? Performance-enhancing drugs, abbreviated PEDs, are also known as ergogenic aids and are designed to give athletes a chemically induced advantage in competition. Athletes use performance-enhancing drugs to reap the benefits in their sport and gain a competitive advantage. This practice is commonly known as doping. Athletes who have been accused of and caught doping have been suspended, stripped of achievements, and even banned from their sport because of unfair gameplay. Aside from external consequences of performance-enhancing drugs, there are health risks associated with the abuse of these drugs as well.
So illegal, whoops, okay, we went twice there. There we go. So illegal performance enhancing drugs. There are many kinds of performance enhancing drugs, or otherwise known as PEDs, athletes use to get ahead in their sport. Narcotics and analgesics are used to suppress pain. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Association defined anabolic steroids as synthetically produced variants of naturally occurring male hormone testosterone that are abused in an attempt to promote muscle growth, enhance athletic or physical performance, and improve physical appearance. Hormones are used to increase muscle mass and aerobic capacity. Androgen receptors modulators are similar to steroids, but avoid some of the negative side effects steroids can produce. And we have a quick video right here, which goes further into this topic. So hold on, let me make this
to democratize
big
data and
screen.
AI for businesses around
Sorry
the
for
world.
the ad, and here we go.
Steroids, hormones, and blood transfusions are among the most widely used performance-enhancing drugs. Whether it's Lance Armstrong in cycling, Ben Johnson in track and field, Alex Rodriguez in baseball, or Russia in basically everything, doping is a persistent problem in both competitive and recreational sports. In fact, the problem in Russia has gotten so bad that in 2016, the country was banned from the Paralympic Games entirely and then forced to play under a neutral flag in the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics. Russia has been credited with one of the most elaborate doping ploys in all of sports history. Guidelines and regulations for doping, including what is considered legal and what is not, has come a long way since the International Olympic Committee first started testing for doping in the 1960s. Among the most common types of doping are steroid and erythropoietin or EPO injections. Anabolic androgenic steroids, also known as AAS, are among the most common form of steroid injections. They work by increasing total muscle mass and strength, ultimately resulting in an increased tolerance for hard training. EPO is a hormone that is naturally produced by the kidneys and can stimulate the production of red blood cells from bone marrow. Synthetic EPO can be injected into the bloodstream to increase the number of red blood cells. This can drastically enhance how much oxygen a person can carry in their blood, ultimately leading to higher endurance and less muscle fatigue, giving athletes an edge over their competitors. In short, performance-enhancing drugs might seem favorable, but do the benefits outweigh the risks? Athletes caught for doping are immediately stripped of their titles and achievements and forced to forfeit their medals. Further, they are also banned from participating in their sport for up to 4 years or even life in the case of repeated occurrences. And of course, permanent damage to their reputation. It is becoming increasingly difficult for athletes to get away with doping, especially at the Olympic level due to advancements in drug testing technology. Athletes are routinely subjected to various blood and urine samples before and after their competitions. These samples are then analyzed for various biomarkers, which would indicate the presence of performance-enhancing drugs. For example, synthetic EPO has different acidity levels when compared to naturally produced EPO, and thus can be screened for in the blood. Additionally, this blood is preserved for many years and can be retested at any point in the future when screening technologies are improved. For instance, the 2012 Russian Olympic team was stripped of 11 medals after the games were over due to the retesting of older blood samples. Aside from tarnishing an athlete's reputation, There are also a number of health implications associated with doping. AASs in particular have been notoriously known for causing various cardiac complications with prolonged use. There have been various reports of otherwise healthy athletes having sudden cardiac arrest due to steroid abuse. Other prominent side effects include reduction in testicular size, sperm count, and overall sexual dysfunction. EPO injections are also associated with cardiovascular risks, including an increased risk of high blood pressure and blood clots. Other less severe side effects include nausea, headache, dizziness, and allergic responses. Although Russia has recently been under scrutiny for excessive cases of doping with their back-to-back Olympic bans, the problem of performance-enhancing drugs in competitive sport has existed for a long time. As regulations for drug testing and testing technologies improve, and people begin to realize the severity of the side effects, hopefully we begin to see a drastic decline in the number of doping cases in the coming years. Please like and subscribe if you like this video. For more
Legal performance-enhancing drugs. However, there are performance-enhancing drugs that are illegal, common among both physically active and inactive people. Protein powder is a nutritional supplement to help people achieve weight goals. Amino acids are used to increase the secretion of anabolic hormones, modifying fuel use during exercise, preventing adverse effects of overtraining, and preventing mental fatigue. Caffeine, commonly associated with coffee, improved alertness, and reaction time. The Cleveland Clinic states creatine creates a quick burst of energy and increased strength, which improves your performance without affecting your ability to exercise for longer periods.
Why is coffee and protein powder allowed, but hormones and injections are not? Until 2004, coffee was on WADA's illegal substance list and transferred to the monitoring list. Creatine is not considered a banned substance because it is naturally occurring compound found in food sources like white meat. The four listed legal performance enhancing drugs are defined by WADA as not banned for competition and may have positive effects on athletic performance. So, why allow these drug types if it is a potential performance advantage? Aside from the higher level of unfair competition, drugs on the banned substance list provide these performance enhancing drugs are detrimental to the consumer's long-term health.
Performance-enhancing drugs can have detrimental effects on the human body. Examples of what can happen include organ enlargement, stunted growth, liver damage, and fertility issues. And natural testosterone levels may never be the same again. Additionally, if the abused drug is injected, the recipient is at a higher chance of contracting a MRSA infection and HIV/AIDS. The withdrawal of these drugs can lead people to depression, anxiety, and sometimes death.
Want your video to stand out? Go to motionarray.com.
Strength, energy, endurance. Those are three things that athletes are trying to get when they use these performance enhancing drugs. Now, there's some debate as to whether it actually works, but the athletes seem to think that it works and they often continue using it. So in some sports, strength is more important. In other sports, like let's say biking, endurance is also important. So athletes in different sports will take drugs that they think are tailor-made for what they need. And authorities sort of caught on to this in the 1960s, and they've been trying to stop the doping, but they haven't really been able to stop it completely. Some performance enhancing drugs actually are real medicines, and they're legal if a doctor prescribes them, but they're not legal if a doctor doesn't prescribe them. And then in addition, governing boards of various sports have told athletes, you cannot use these. It is illegal in our sport for you to use these. So human growth hormone is a real drug that doctors actually prescribe to patients, but athletes sometimes abuse it because they think that it increases their muscle mass and they think that it increases their performance. So human growth hormone has legitimate purposes. Doctors give it to children who are very short to help them grow. Sometimes AIDS patients who are having wasting issues, who aren't gaining enough weight, they're given human growth hormone, but it's not supposed to be used to enhance athletic performance. And governing boards of sports have made that very clear. It can be very hard to check for these PEDs, and that's because the abusers are always several steps ahead of the people who are doing the testing. So people who are doing the testing have figured out, you know what, we've got to get better at testing for these drugs. So one of the things that they've started to do is in some sports, the minute that you win a medal, they whisk you off and they test you because they want to see if you have any drugs in your system right at that time. There are so many downsides to using these PEDs. Now, one that a lot of people know about, roid rage. Using steroids can just completely change your behavior. And then on the other hand, PEDs can make you depressed. They can also give you heart problems. They can give you diabetes. And sometimes athletes, in their pursuit of what they think is going to be their best performance, they don't think about these things, but these side effects can really happen.
Hi, I'm Sam Jordan, Director of Humanitarian Action for the International Rescue.
Regulations around drug use. Although each sport has their own policies regarding specific drugs they deem illicit, the two main governing bodies organizations follow are the World Anti-Doping Agency and United States Anti-Doping Agency. Both curate a list of banned substances and ensure an even playing field for all athletes. The main difference between the two agencies is that WADA is used in all Olympic events. The Olympic Movement Anti-Doping Code is accepted as the basis for the fight against doping, which is defined as the use of artifice, whether substance or method, potentially dangerous to athletes' health and are capable of enhancing their performance, or the presence of an athlete's body or substance, or the ascertainment of the use of a method in the list annexed to the Olympic Movement Anti-Doping Code. The Olympic Movement Anti-Doping Code applies to all athletes, coaches, instructors, officials, and to all medical and paramedical staff working with the athletes or treating athletes participating in or training for sports competitions organized within the framework of the Olympic movement.
So let's go over some athletes who have tested positive. Recently, in the 2022 Winter Olympics, Kamila Valieva was set to win gold in senior women's figure skating. Valieva tested positive for L-carnitine, hypoxin, and supradyn in her system. Although only one of the drugs is on the banned substances list, the combination of drugs was intended to improve oxygen flow and endurance so she could successfully perform multiple quadruple jumps throughout her 4-minute program. She has since been stripped of any awards from the late 2021 season and banned from the sport until December 2025. Maria Sharapova, the first Russian woman to top singles tennis, was using meldonium for more than 10 years. At some point, the drug was named to the banned substances list, and Sharapova was suspended from tennis. Although she claimed to take it for medical reasons, her doctor had not written her a note. But because of her confusion of the drug being on the list later in her career, unbeknownst to her, Sharapova was suspension was reduced from 2 years to 15 months. Tristan Thompson, the Cleveland Cavaliers center and power forward, tested positive for performance-enhancing ibutamorin and ligandrol. The former promotes the release of the growth hormone, and the latter increases lean muscle mass. Thompson took responsibility for his actions and apologized to the team for cheating and resulted in him being benched for 25 games. Sha'Carri Richardson, the American sprinter, used THC to cope with the death of her mother during the Olympics trials. She was expected to represent the US at the Olympics, but because of her positive test, she was not allowed to compete. Although she knew using THC was against the rules, she used it to help her emotional well-being. Lance Armstrong was world famous for winning 7 Tour de France titles. However, he was stripped of those accomplishments when he was discovered to have been doping, including blood transfusions, testosterone, corticosteroids. He additionally was charged with trafficking illicit drugs to other cyclists.
Excuse me, would you mind taking a picture of us? Oh, no problem. Thanks. Ooh, yes, problem. You need Verizon. Get the new iPhone 15 Pro with tons of storage, so you can take all the pics.
Trade in any iPhone in any condition and get iPhone 15 Pro on us. Only on Verizon.
Now to the stunning interview with Lance Armstrong, coming clean to Oprah about doping to win. But did he really tell the truth? The whole truth? ABC's Neil Karlinski, who has covered Lance Armstrong for years, is here with the incredibly dramatic details. Neil, good morning.
Elizabeth, good morning. It was surreal to watch. You have to understand, this is a man who has fought with everything he could to maintain this lie through vicious attacks, threats, and lawsuits. But last night, Lance Armstrong came clean, almost as if he just decided to flip a switch from somewhere deep inside.
I'd like you to walk me through it. Were there, pill deliveries and blood in secret refrigerators? How did it work?
Oh, we need a long time.
Calling himself an arrogant bully, Lance Armstrong had no good answer to explain away one of the biggest lies in all of sport.
I will start my answer by saying that this is too late. I view this situation as one big lie that I repeated a lot of times.
The man who won the Tour de France 7 times only to have his title stripped away admitted to using a slew of performance-enhancing drugs in such a matter-of-fact way, you'd never guess he'd done everything in his power to protect this very secret.
Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
Did you ever blood dope or use blood transfusions to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
He seemed to blame the momentum of his own story, surviving cancer, then making a comeback, for getting carried away.
You overcome the disease, you win the Tour de France 7 times, you have a happy marriage, you have children. I mean, it's just this mythic, perfect story.
Yes.
And it wasn't true.
Was it a big deal to you? Did it feel wrong?
At the time? No.
It did not even feel wrong.
No. It's scary.
Did you feel bad about it?
No. Even scarier.
Did you feel in any way that you were cheating?
No. The scariest.
But he said this interview, his former teammate Floyd Landis coming forward and telling all in an ABC News exclusive, was the beginning of the end.
Many people think that the real tipping point was Floyd Landis and his decision to come forward and confess.
I'd agree with that.
That was the tipping point. Yeah.
What those who know him say was missing in the words, the body language, all of it, was any real sign of feeling, of contrition.
Were you a bully?
Yeah, I was a bully. I tried to control the narrative. And if I didn't like what somebody said, and for whatever reasons in my own head, whether I viewed that as somebody being disloyal or as a friend turning on you or whatever, I tried to control that and said that, that's a lie, they're liars.
Many thought the apologies in particular didn't seem to have much heart to them. And then, of course, there is the question of how much of what he said can even be believed, since Armstrong clearly admitted to being a very, very good liar, George.
That is the bottom line. Okay, Neil, thanks for...
Should they have been reprimanded? This is a matter of opinion. In the case of Lance Armstrong, he was part of a black market drug scandal and won consecutive titles in his sport because of the benefits the drugs gave him. His situation seems to have been assigned to the appropriate consequences. The unfair advantage made him equally as famous as his downfall. However, in the case of Sha'Carri Richardson, with marijuana becoming more and more legalized in the United States and her personal circumstance, the decision to disqualify her from being on Team USA received pushback, especially since the drug she was taking was a much gentler substance than other performance-enhancing drugs. Simultaneously, Richardson understood that marijuana was against the policy regarding substances in track, and she still broke the rules. Each athlete's story is very different because of the various reasons why the athlete used performance-enhancing drugs. Still, we believe rules are rules, and the consequence may be severe, but it is the organization's responsibility to uphold standards.
Marijuana. As we saw in the previous slide, marijuana is considered a performance-enhancing drug according to WADA, and Sha'Carri Richardson was disqualified from the Olympics for using marijuana. However, the topic of marijuana being listed on the performance-enhancing drugs list as an illicit drug is controversial. One perspective on marijuana being removed from the banned substances list is that it could be incorporated into an athlete's training regimen as effectively as nutrition and hydration. This is due to its properties that can alleviate pain, reduce anxiety, and improve sleep. It is worth noting that there are anxiolytic, sedative, and a number of pain medications allowed for athletes to use. Simultaneously, marijuana can have negative side effects, delayed reaction anxiety, and concentration impairment that can last for 24 to 36 hours after use. Marijuana remains on WADA's illicit substances list as they claim for the drug's potential for abuse and discord with the spirit of sport. However, the number of organizations allowing marijuana use is growing, so the drug may one day be allowed in the Olympics.
Chances are that you know someone that smokes weed from time to time. And seeing that this channel's age demographic is pretty much in line with the age of people that smokes the most weed, you probably smoke a bit as well. And it wouldn't be surprised if you're high right now. But what happens when you mix a little bit of that THC with your workouts? What happens when you work out high? For those of you that don't know much about marijuana, the most important substance in it is tetrahydrocannabinol, aka THC. THC has a huge effect in one system of the body known as the endocannabinoid system. In fact, your body produces its own THC-like substances known as, well, endocannabinoids. When endocannabinoids or THC binds to cannabinoid receptors, primarily in the brain, it causes all types of fascinating effects that pot users are familiar with. Now, the question is whether any of these effects can help you with your workouts. First, let's make it clear that even though it's more widely accepted today, smoking marijuana is still illegal in most states and many countries. Because of that, this channel does not condone the use of marijuana. Goal of this video is to look at what we know about marijuana and how it can help or hurt your gains at the gym. Whether you choose to use marijuana or any other THC-inducing drug is solely your choice. Now, let's face it, most people's image of a marijuana user is not what we would call physically active. The cliche lazy couch dwelling pot smoker almost makes it seem like smoking weed will do absolutely nothing in terms of fitness. But many athletes say otherwise. Some triathletes have said that consuming THC-laced edibles were able to help them focus better in physical activities. Some athletes say that getting high allowed them to take away anxiety during workouts. Marathon runners have said that smoking weed before a run allowed them to get into a groove easier, and it makes it feel like they can run much longer. So the anecdotes of professional athletes seem to give a thumbs up to bongs up. But what about actual research? Well, the thing is, not too many research is out there since marijuana and THC is still classified as a Schedule I illegal substance. But we do have some research and the information is quite interesting. First is the connection of marijuana and the good feeling after a long jog known as the runner's high. It was long believed that runner's high came from the release of beta endorphins, but now studies say that's not true since endorphins cannot reach the brain. Instead, it's most likely from endocannabinoids, which can reach the brain. Since marijuana's THC share the same effects as endocannabinoids, it can be possible to increase the sensation of a runner's high if you smoke a bit before you run. Not exactly improving performance, but at least improve the enjoyment of exercise. As far as improving performance, unfortunately, it seems that all studies are pointing to zero. In terms of power output, studies have found that when performing a cycling test at maximal effort, smoking marijuana caused subjects to exhaust faster. Another study showed a placebo beat out marijuana in an endurance test. They even found that smokers routinely had an elevated heart rate and blood pressure. This can be discomforting and problematic for people at risk for coronary heart disease. And even though, yes, smoking marijuana can reduce stress and pain sensations, which can even help you push through a few more reps, this can pose as a huge risk. Since many of the early indicators of injury from physical activity is discomfort and joint pain, smokers might not be able to timely identify pain injury signals before it's too late. And THC is also a psychoactive drug that can impair coordination and slow down reaction time. A study found that smoking 17 milligrams of THC caused users to run into walls more frequently and took longer to complete a virtual maze test. A caveat, though, is that people smoking only 13 milligrams of THC did as well as non-smokers. On top of this, another study showed that if smokers were given a chance to practice, they were able to perform just as well as non-smokers in a reaction test. So if you do choose to work out high, perhaps smoke just a little bit and make sure you get enough warm-up practice before you go heavy. And one more possible positive, but not fully proven, is that marijuana can serve as a vasodilator. This means that it can improve blood flow by widening your arteries, which can help with delivering nutrients to your muscles, and vasodilation has shown to even improve soreness, a small win for Grass City. Now, putting everything in perspective, it doesn't seem like working out high is that great of an idea. There's just no proven performance benefits, and it might even make it worse. But if taking a few puffs will help you with your workout, then don't let this video stop you from puffing away. Stay high and stay active.
Therapeutic use exemption. For athletes who do require a drug on the banned substance list, they submit a therapeutic use exemption to the Anti-Doping Agency of Athlete Sport. The athlete must meet the listed 4 criteria. Upon approval, the athlete cannot be punished for illicit drug use. Athletes must be approved prior to the competition unless they are subject to illicit drug use.
The future of performance-enhancing drugs. What does the future hold for these PEDs in sports? Testing is foreseen to be improved over time and more accessible and precise. One form of testing is fluorescent detection platform that interacts with molecules from the human body to indicate whether an illicit drug is present or not. The fluorescence method is to be improved to detect drugs more accurately, able to be analyzed by machine learning and AI, and be compact enough to have portable testing kits. The graph shows the amount of revenue sports brings in, remarkably increasing over recent years. One concern regarding performance-enhancing drugs is how lenient organizations may be when it comes to increased athletic performance and increasing revenue. At the end of the day, sports is a business, and if the success of the game is in jeopardy, allowing athletes to use performance-enhancing drugs could be considered. Businessman Aaron D'Souza drafted up an idea called the Enhanced Games. The point of the Enhanced Games is to see the capability of human ability when there is not a limit put on it. The Enhanced Games would be like the Olympic Games minus drug testing, allowing for free reign when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs. D'Souza has signed term sheets with prominent venture capital firms and is waiting on lawyers to finish long-form drafting, planning to announce funding in December. So our personal opinions on this subject are that performance-enhancing drugs, well, my personal opinion is that performance-enhancing drugs should not be allowed if it's going to create an unfair advantage for one person and it's not available to all. However, I think marijuana should be allowed because of its benefits. And the therapeutic use exemption is a great way to go around and use illicit drugs if needed for health.
So my opinion, I agree with Sophia that I do not think any PEDs should be allowed at all unless everyone can use them. So it should be 0 or 100%. In terms of marijuana, I believe that marijuana, if used, should only be used as a recovery tool and not used when performing. because like mentioned in the video and like mentioned that we talked about, it can reduce pain and it can reduce anxiety if taken only a little bit, which before a big game, if you took a little bit of marijuana, you'd be less nervous, which would then improve your performance. So that is why I believe that it should only be used for recovery aspects, and even in recovery aspects should only be used a little bit. And then in terms of when an athlete is performing, should not be used at all. And then TUE, I have the same opinion as Sophia. And yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you tuning in, and we hope you found this informational. And these are references.
Woo!
Thanks.